Hey you guys, Crafty Josephine here. Today I'm going to show you how I make my Christmas time trapper hat gnome, and all the patterns that you'll need are on my blog, and the link for that is in the description below. So I make him with my 3-inch gnome body. I'm just going to go ahead and make my gnome body out of felt today. So I have these patterns here for you. And since I'm making the body black, I'm just going to use this old chalk that I have for marking around the pattern. But you could use one of those markers that marks in white. I'm going to cut the hat and the mittens out of a red and black buffalo plaid. Obviously you could use whatever you like. One thing I want to point out is that the hat will be cone-shaped as well. And so my pattern, being that it's square, will come together and it will look, you know, maybe kind of funny in the back. But I'm okay with that. But what I am going to try to do is at least line it up so that in the front we're looking at the squares, you know, head on. And in the back, if they aren't quite so perfect, that's okay with me. But obviously you could go with a solid color if you wanted. Some people make theirs out of fur, you know, on the front. Even though there will be fur on the ear flaps, they'll make it fur on the outside as well, and whatever makes you happy. For my mitten pattern, I have this side here that could go on a fold, so you can either fold your fabric, or I just doubled it basically, and I can trace it this way. But feel free to place yours on a fold. And again, I'm just going to try to keep it, you know, considering the square pattern that I'm working with here. And then I have this sherpa-like material that I use for the ear flaps and the flap in the front of the hat. And it sheds a ton. I had a better fabric that didn't shed so much, but this is what I have now. I will be putting this trim around his wrists as well. I'm not going to cut that part now, but I will show that to you later. Right now I'm just going to do the part that goes on his hat. And let me tell you what I do. You can trace this whole pattern if you want. You know, you only see it on the flaps. So when you put those ear flaps and the hat flap up when he's wearing it, I just have it go a little bit beyond there, just so that you don't, you know, see the edge sticking out. But you don't really need all of this, so I only trace part of it, and I'll show you what I do. Okay, so I only trace that much of the pattern, and then really, this will be more than enough. See, it almost looks kind of like a crown. And it doesn't need to be perfect. All this edge here will be tucked inside the hat. You won't see it. But if you wanted to cut the whole thing out of Berber, feel free. Alright, so I'm ready to start cutting, and I just thought I'd mention real quick that I usually buy my felt at Joann's when it goes on sale, and then this fabric here, I believe was a fat quarter that I also got from Joann's. Alright, so I'm going to sew my two pieces of the hat together now. And I have the right sides together. And I'm going to start here. I'm not going to worry about this edge. We'll deal with that later. But I'm just going to do the bottom edge and sew about a 1/4 inch seam all the way around the ear flaps and that flap in the front. So now what I want to do is fold my hat in half, still with right sides together. And I'm going to try to line my pattern up as best I can with my squares. You may not have a pattern, you may not have to worry about that, but if you do have a pattern, and the same thing with this furry part at the bottom. I'm just gonna go straight from the tippy top point here, sewing all the way down, and then just right through that, you know, I don't even know if that's an inch of fabric, straight down. Alright, so here's my bag of rice. I guess at about 1/3 cup of rice in there. I don't measure it, I just kind of have an idea. One thing I wanted to mention, when I first started making gnomes, I used to fill them pretty much all the way up with rice. And I've seen a lot of videos where that's what they do with their bodies, is fill them completely with rice or beans or plastic pots, whatever they're using. The reason I stopped filling them all the way like that is because once you start selling them, if you send them somewhere, they weigh a lot more when they're completely filled with something heavy like this. Right now, I usually send gnomes out that are, you know, ballpark 8 ounces, which costs a lot less to send than something that's over a pound. So if you plan on mailing it, that's just something to consider. Alright, so now that he's all stuffed, I'm going to go ahead and use the ladder stitch just to sew up the opening I had. Alright, so this is the fur that I'm going to use for my little gnome here. And I'm just going to turn it over to the back to cut off the piece that I need. And I just kind of eyeball this, just making a U shape. Go. Come in here and clean it up a little bit. Alright, so I used the same fabric that I used on the hat to make the trim that goes around the cuffs here. And I just glue these. Obviously you could sew them as well. But what I'm going to end up doing is gluing the arms into the mitten and then just gluing this around like that. And so this rectangle is about 1 1/4 by 2 1/4. So if you want to measure that, sometimes what I do is just do my gluing, you know, I'll glue a strip and then I'll just cut it after I wrap it around so that I know it's going to fit, if you prefer to do it that way. But I'll just show you on one. And there's not really any great rhyme or reason to why I sew what I sew and why I glue what I glue. I guess just in my head I do what's easiest or what I think will hold up best. Or alright, so now I'm getting ready to stitch the hat onto the gnome. And you'll just have to decide for yourself, you know, do you want your flaps to stay up on the ears or down? I'm going to leave mine kind of just do their own thing. But when I'm stitching the hat to the body, I am going to try to catch this in there too so that that will stay up, you know, so that my gnome nose will show once I glue that on. I've made hats kind of like this for my marshmallow mugs, and I've sewn on snaps so that this part would snap up there. So you can attach it however you like. And I'm using black thread, and what I want to do is just make very small stitches to just catch the hat. Hopefully no one will ever see. Like I said, I'm going to try to catch the arm in there too, to make that extra secure and keep it attached to the gnome body. And I'm just going to try to get my needle and thread to only come up through the fabric where it's black, since I'm using black thread. Just little tiny stitches. And I'll show you what I do here. So I'm where the front flap comes up, and I've come up there, and I'm just going to grab just a little bit of the flap. I don't want to come through to the front because I don't want my black thread to show on the white fur. And go back down in. Alright, so you can always take a lint roller or a rolled up piece of tape to get all that extra beard. And like I said, this white fabric for me was shedding a ton, so I can pick up some of those loose pieces with that. But now all that's left to do is to glue his little nose on. And I always choose whichever side is not looking so good to glue down. That one's kind of rough. So I like to give my gnomes usually something to hold. Not always, but a lot of the time. And so I just have different Christmassy things that I've picked up. If you go to Dollar Tree, you know, a lot of their ornaments are really cute, so that's something cute he could hold. I actually got these sleds on Amazon, and I think they were like actually cream colored. I painted it brown. But anyways, and it had like a snowman or a Santa or something on it. But I just wanted it to be plain. But I've used these, and I even have like little glittery snowflakes that I've glued on just to make it a little more decorative. And then these are cute. They're kind of rustic looking. So I've had this, and you know, you could even glue a little bit of pine to it or something to make it a little more Christmassy if you wanted. And I've, you know, you can either glue it or there's a little hole there. You could try stitching it to their hands. Just to give him something to hold if you wanted. Otherwise, he's certainly perfectly cute all on his own. But that is pretty much all I do. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more from Crafty Josephine, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye! Together with you.